We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
What really happened on that Thursday here at Augusta High School that led to Chris Wood's death?
The fuck is that? Shit.
USA, motherfucker.
Die in this fucking country-ass fucked up town.
So y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they raping everybody out here.
Drop that gun right now, USA!
Which brings us to our two main stories, Bill Cosby and Brett Kavanaugh. 2 weeks ago, no one would have thought of comparing the two. Brett Kavanaugh has had so many accusers come forward in 2 weeks, we might as well rename him Brett Cosby. Bill Cosby is a comedian who is currently being held to a higher standard than a Supreme Court nominee. Bill Cosby is a top 10 comedian all time and will get more jail time than a guy who won't even make the top 9 of the Supreme Court. This explains why Brett wanted to become a Supreme Court justice. A justice's robes provide much better dick access. Bill Cosby was sentenced to 3 years minimum in a state prison for drugging women before raping them. As a comedian, I'm not okay with anyone in my scene being a rapist, but I'll be honest, the improv scene is much rapier than the comedy scene. Improvers build a culture of rape. I mean, they're taught from day one to say, yes and. I remember I was at an improv show and they started the show by saying, do you have any suggestions? And I said, don't rape people, but they didn't listen. Bill Cosby was taken directly from court to jail. Here's footage of that moment. Wow, I gotta say that's the weirdest episode of The Cosby Show I've ever seen. Bill Cosby was the first black man on TV. From this position, he criticized how black men acted and spoke. Cosby criticized black men for lack of sentence structure, and now they get to criticize Cosby's lack of sentence structure. Only 3 years for rape? His lawyer made a ridiculous argument.
This has been the most racist and sexist trial in the history of the United States. Dr. Cosby has been one of the greatest civil rights leaders in the United States.
Yes, you heard him right. He pulled out the race card. Newsflash, the race card does not beat the rape card. Even if you didn't do it, ask Emmett Till. If we're locking up Bill Cosby's old ass for rape, let's also lock up Carolyn Bryant Donham, her old ass, for her false rape accusation as well. Sagging eye for an eye. 60 women accused Bill Cosby of rape. But if only 1% of rapes are reported, Bill Cosby is statistically unlucky. He had like 40 to go. If I was Bill Cosby's lawyer, I could have ended the trial in under a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Honor, my client Bill Cosby will not be found guilty because Bill Cosby, during the time of these rapes, was a cop. Case closed. So yeah, I did a costume change. You know, the low-cut shirt. I figured it was inappropriate for this Brett Kavanaugh talk. And honestly, my director, Lila Hart, came in and hated the shirt and said, you have to change that now. And unlike Brett Kavanaugh, I listened to women. Yes, Brett Kavanaugh has the main story concerning rape this week. Brett Kavanaugh's accusers of sexual assault have grown from 1 to 3 in 1 week. Before you know it, this Supreme Court nominee might have more accusers than America has Supreme Court justices. I would have had this show out last week, but so many rape accusations have kept coming out, I've had to keep updating the show. Brett has 3 rape accusations just from his high school and college days, and still has a chance to be on the Supreme Court. In 1987, Douglas H. Ginsburg failed to be nominated because he admitted to smoking weed in high school. Oh, how America has matured. Let's start with Kavanaugh's first accuser, Christine Blasey Ford, Dr. Ford, who will testify on Thursday about her allegations.
Brett Kavanaugh physically and sexually assaulted me during high school in the early 1980s. He conducted these acts with the assistance of Redacted. Both were 1 or 2 years older than me and students at a local private school. The assault occurred in a suburban Maryland area home at a gathering that included me and 4 others. Kavanaugh physically pushed me into a bedroom as I was headed for a bathroom up a short stairwell from the living room. They locked the door and played loud music, precluding any successful attempt to yell for help.
Brett wants to be heard, but turns the music up on women so that they can't be heard. This would really be awkward information if there were clips of him ignoring screaming women.
Colleagues will agree. The written more than 300 opinions affirm a great jurist, but would also undermine civility.
Critics of the accuser will say that Brett Kavanaugh and his friend Mark Judge should be heard more than the accuser. And that's the problem. It's a he said, she said situation where what she said doesn't matter. But now it's not just a he said, she said situation. It's a he said, she, and she said. Kavanaugh is in trouble, partly because of who the next 2 accusers are represented by.
A college classmate of Brett Kavanaugh named Deborah Ramirez claims that during a party where students were drinking, Kavanaugh put his genitals in her face, forcing her to touch them as she tried to push him away. Quote, "I was embarrassed and ashamed and humiliated." She remembers Kavanaugh standing to her right and laughing, pulling up his pants. Brett was laughing, she said. "I can still see his face and his hips coming forward like when you pull up your pants." She recalled another male student shouting about the incident. Somebody yelled down the hall, "Brett Kavanaugh just put his penis in Debbie's face," she said. It was his full name. I don't think it was just Brett. And I remember hearing that and being mortified that this was out there.
She remembers vividly Brett Kavanaugh laughing at her during this incident, pulling his pants up afterwards. Another classmate who she identified yelling down the hall, "Brett Kavanaugh just put his penis in Debbie Ramirez's face."
Deborah Ramirez, the second Kavanaugh accuser, had her story broken by journalist Ronan Farrow. If you've done something bad, no one likes seeing Ronan's face. Woody Allen didn't even like seeing Ronan's face, but that was because Woody realized that Frank Sinatra was the biological father and not himself. Whatever Ronan has reported about Deborah Ramirez's story, Kavanaugh is in trouble.
So we called several dozen classmates who were around at the time in general. Many didn't respond, many didn't wish to comment. Several were working, in fact, with Brett Kavanaugh's team and signed on to a statement saying, they didn't have direct knowledge of this, but they didn't think it was the kind of thing that he would have done, and we included that. It's worth noting that half of that list either were individuals she said were directly involved in this, were people who egged Brett Kavanaugh on as he did it, urging her to kiss it and other things, or the wife of one of those alleged assailants. We did receive, however, several direct accounts from people who said they were told right after or saw her describing it right after, and who independently of Ms. Ramirez recounted the same fact pattern about Brett Kavanaugh doing this.
Brett drugged this woman before he pulled his junk out and laughed, because if she wasn't drugged, she would have laughed at his junk. Just a couple of isolated incidents where everyone remembers the exact same story. Look, who are you gonna believe? All those people or my friend Mark and I? Cue the third accuser's lawyer, Michael Abbenante, the guy who forced Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, to plead guilty to multiple charges. Michael Abbenante's client, unlike the other two, plans to bring criminal charges against Kavanaugh.
I think, Rachel, there very well be, or may be, a criminal complaint made relating to this conduct. We don't believe a statute of limitations would apply to it, and we may very well pursue criminal charges relating to the perpetrators at issue relating to what my client alleges.
But we are aware of significant evidence of multiple house parties in the Washington, D.C. area during the early 1980s, during which Brett Kavanaugh, Mark Judge, and others would participate in the targeting of women with alcohol/drugs in order to allow a, quote, train of men to subsequently gang rape them. There are multiple witnesses that will corroborate these facts, and each of them must be called to testify publicly. As a starting point, Senate investigators should pose the following questions to Judge Kavanaugh. Number one, did you ever target one or more women for sex or rape at a house party? Did you ever assist Mark Judge or others in doing so?
I'm no history buff, but I think this might be the first Supreme Court justice accused of running a train and performing gang rapes. Since Ruth Bader Ginsburg, of course. That's a bad bitch right there.
Did you ever object or attempt to prevent one or more men from participating in the rape or taking advantage of a woman at any house party?
That's sixth question. Question number 6. Holy shit. Kavanaugh is going to jail, and he's not the only one. If you say yes, you're guilty. If you say no, you're guilty. Abbenante says the key to all of the Kavanaugh information is a name that pops up in 2 of the 3 accusations, Mark Judge.
We have demanded that Mark Judge be subpoenaed to testify before the committee in public so that the American people can hear Mark Judge answer questions about his close friend, Brett Kavanaugh. So far, those requests have fallen on deaf ears. For some reason, Chairman Grassley and others do not want the American people to hear from Mark Judge. For some reason, Brett Kavanaugh does not want the American people to hear from his close friend, Mark Judge. And I think that should tell people everything they need to know about Mark Judge and what he may say. Because Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh were effectively, Rachel, joined at the hip for an extended period of time during the years at issue. They participated in various conduct together, which we believe is absolutely disqualifying as it relates to Brett Kavanaugh serving on the U.S. Supreme Court.
Looks like Mark Judge's life is ruined. You know, almost as much as those women he raped. A week ago, it looked like his best friend was going to be on the Supreme Court. Now they're going to go to court. He went from, my friend's gonna be on the Supreme Court, to, I need a lawyer. Looks like Brett's friend Mark Judge is going to prevent Kavanaugh from being a judge.
If time is so precious, why are you waiting 48 hours?
Because we have to make sure our ducks are in a row, especially as it relates to security and other measures. We don't want to rush into this. We want to be smart about it. We want to be deliberative about it. And that's why we're waiting. And I don't think it's a lot of time to wait, quite frankly.
Why are all of these women coming out now? Because this is the first time someone could ensure their safety after coming out with this information. All 3 accusers had to wait to come out with their stories until they could obtain a security detail. Christine Blasey Ford has had so many death threats, she has had to move into an undisclosed location for her and her family's safety. People are saying, what is her agenda? But we know Brett's agenda, having sex without consent. Oh, and being on the Supreme Court. There's no time period where rape is okay. Ever since the first cave women invented the word no, rape was forever not okay. Now that we've gotten through all 3 accusations, how in the hell do you respond to all of that?
We're talking about an allegation of sexual assault. I've never sexually assaulted anyone. I did not have sexual intercourse or anything close to sexual intercourse in high school or for many years thereafter.
What man brags about being a virgin? The man who was trying to cover up all of his gang rapes. At this point, we might as well call him Brett, I did no such thing, Kavanaugh. Where have I heard this before?
I've never had any sexual or physical activity with Dr. Ford. I've never sexually assaulted anyone.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
I know I never did that. If I had done that, it would have been the talk of campus.
Look, it wouldn't be the talk of campus. It was a secret. He sounds like a white OJ. If I did do it, this is how I do it.
And I went to an all-boys Catholic high school, a Jesuit high school, where I was focused on academics and athletics, going to church every Sunday at Little Flower.
Your defense against rape is that you went to Catholic school? Have you read the news? Clearly, you haven't, or else you would know how fucked you are.
And people generally in high school, I think all of us have probably done things we look back on in high school and regret or cringe a bit. But that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, when your gang rapes and trades you ran on victims comes to light, it is really cringeworthy.
For the last 7 years, I've been coaching girls basketball. Ask the moms.
Ask the moms? That just sounds like you're bragging that you'll fuck them both. Well, I expect his wife is going to fiercely defend her man's honor.
Really hard to believe. He's decent, he's kind, he's good. I know his heart.
Kavanaugh's fucked. Decent? If I'm Kavanaugh, I'm telling her, baby, I could go to jail. I'm gonna need a bit more than decent. Well, too bad you're not decent.
Listen to the people who've known me best through my whole life. The women who've known me since high school. The 65 who overnight signed a letter from high school saying I always treated them with dignity and respect.
Nothing says, I didn't rape women like having 65 women sign your name. Is 65 a large or small number in this context? So in your whole life, Brett Kavanaugh, there were only 65 women from your high school and college life that you didn't rape? Well, actually, there's an interesting development in those 65 women. One of the 65 women who signed this letter backing Brett Kavanaugh after the first accuser was Renata Schroeder.
Yeah, and Anita, the Georgetown Prep Yearbook is frankly filled with references to partying and drinking, and there are a couple things, but I just want to talk about one photo that stands out. There's this group photo, has 9 football players in it, and the caption says, there you see it there, Renata alumni. Apparently a reference to the student, Renata Schroeder. Classmates say it refers to the boys' conquests of her. Renata was one of the women who signed this letter supporting Judge Kavanaugh. He also referenced that letter a couple times last night during the interview. This was before she knew about what was written about her in the yearbook, and she released a statement to the New York Times saying in part, I can't begin to comprehend what goes through the minds of 17-year-old boys who write such things, but the insinuation is horrible, hurtful, and simply untrue. I pray their daughters are never treated this way.
One of the 65 women who backed Brett Kavanaugh, he had lied about having sex with in his yearbook. That he even lied about kissing Renata. Brett Kavanaugh doesn't just lie about rapes, he lies about his kisses too. Brett, do you say anything honest at this point?
And people generally in high school, I think all of us have probably done things we look back on in high school and regret or cringe a bit, but that's not what we're talking about.
We haven't all done horrible things in high school like that. You hear this all the time too about college. The freshman 15 refers to how many pounds you gain, not how many rapes you commit. For some, this might seem like a bunch of 60-year-olds still arguing about what happened in high school, but this could be a historic overturning of a Supreme Court nominee. How can he defend himself?
Thank you for allowing me to make my statement. I wrote it myself yesterday afternoon and evening.
This guy pats himself on the back for everything. Hey Brett, I wrote this myself. Pat yourself on the back for not drugging women before raping them. Looks like you can.
I told this committee that I wanted a hearing as soon as possible to clear my name. I demanded a hearing for the very next day.
Yeah, the guy who in his yearbook falsely acclaimed to have hooked up with Renata Schroeder when he never even kissed her is angry about false claims.
I was not at the party described by Dr. Ford. This confirmation process has become a national disgrace.
Finally something we can agree on, because yes, Brett Kavanaugh, this fucking hearing has been a national disgrace.
There's been a frenzy on the left to come up with something, anything, to block my confirmation.
Brett hates the opposition to his confirmation by Democrats, because to be fair, Brett hates anyone who tells him no.
Those efforts didn't work. When I did at least okay enough at the hearings that it looked like I might actually get confirmed, a new tactic was needed.
Brett is very familiar with this, because when he tried to get with women, even when he did it at least okay enough, they wouldn't confirm his hearing, and he had to resort to a new tactic, drugging women.
Will not drive me out. You may defeat me in the final vote, but you'll never get me to quit. Never.
And that's the problem, Brett. You never quit, even when women said no. And that's why all of these women looked at you like it was the Last Supper of Kavanaugh. Those looks range from disgusting to I can't believe I married this guy to I can't believe anyone married this guy.
Fear that has been unfairly stoked about my judicial record. Revenge on behalf of the Clintons.
Brett mentions Clinton revenge because Brett helped Ken Starr question Bill Clinton during the impeachment hearings. In a memo sent to Ken Starr, Brett in bold letters said about Bill that he should be forced to account for all of that and to defend his actions. Brett told Ken Starr to ask a series of questions, like about Bill inserting a cigar into Monica's vagina, fingering her, oral sex, orgasms. Did Brett ever care about Monica Lewinsky's name being dragged in the mud?
We are talking about a young woman characterized as Jane Doe, who discovered that she was pregnant after crossing the border into the United States. She made a personal decision that she was not ready to be a parent and did not want to continue her pregnancy. She went through every step necessary to comply with Texas state law, as well as steps forced on her by the federal government. She visited a religious anti-abortion crisis pregnancy center. She underwent an ultrasound for no medical purpose, and she went before a judge and obtained a judicial bypass of the state's parental consent requirements. In other words, this young woman complied with every legal requirement, including Texas state requirements, placed in front of her.
I bring all this up because Brett is being nominated to the Supreme Court. If confirmed, his judgment will affect American life for his lifetime. In Garza v. Hargan, Kavanaugh wrote a dissenting opinion that the government could impose an undue burden on a 17-year-old immigrant seeking an abortion, which is untrue. He said that he tried his best to follow precedent, but he went against the precedent set by Roe v. Wade. It's ironic that she's from Mexico because with Brett Kavanaugh, Trump did not send us his best people. He sent us a rapist with drugs. In the end, the Supreme Court nominee who was supposed to overturn Roe v. Wade is about to be aborted by the Republicans. The guy who was supposed to become a Supreme Court judge might have his rape criminal case tried in front of another judge. And this has been Jew News. Brett Kavanaugh, get a lawyer.
And it sucks being a Jew in a Mormon area because you're like a rare Pokemon. Everyone just wants to convert you. We get bonus points, we get this one. And so I literally have over 10 books of Mormon for no reason. Like they're thrown at me. And I remember my friends came over, and the first time I ever smoked weed was in Utah. My friends came over with weed, but no way to smoke it. Typical stoner shit. Typical stoner shit. You don't know how to smoke it. And they were like, oh, so you don't have papers. And I was like, I have papers. I have papers. I have 10 books worth of papers. Fuck it. And so they were like, let's just take one of the blank books. No. We're grabbing one of the holy pages. We're reading that shit. Nephites, 15:1. Blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. We read that shit, and then we rolled it. And then we smoked that shit. And then we didn't get high at all. Because Mormonism is a fake fucking religion. Fake news, doesn't work, even when you smoke it. Doesn't fucking work. You guys are clapping a little too hard for that. They're all fake religions, dumbasses.